They expected mud and gators under Pickle Wheat's dock. What they uncovered instead made her freeze mid-sentence, because the bayou was hiding something that was never meant to surface. This is the story of how a routine day in the swamp turned into a discovery. So disturbing, Pickle Wheat stopped joking, stopped smiling, and realized the bayou was watching back. Dawn broke soft and golden over the marshland as Pickle stepped onto her weathered family dock, coffee in hand, ready to start another day of preparation for gator season. The air hung heavy with humidity, carrying the familiar symphony of cicadas and frogs that had been the soundtrack to her entire life. That's when she felt it. A strange vibration beneath her boots. Not the gentle sway of water lapping against the pilings, but something more deliberate. A hollow knock that seemed to rise from below the wooden planks. Pickle froze, coffee forgotten as she crouched down and pressed her palm flat against the dock. There it was again, a faint trembling that didn't match any natural rhythm of the swamp. Most would have dismissed it as debris shifting with the current, or perhaps a curious gar investigating the dock's shadow. But Pickle had inherited generations of swamp intuition. This was different. This was intentional. The previous night's thunderstorm had swept through the parish with unusual ferocity, churning the waters and reshaping the landscape in subtle ways that only locals would notice. Such storms often unearthed long-buried secrets, old traps, forgotten equipment, sometimes even gator nests, displaced by the violent waters. But as twilight settled over the bayou and Pickle returned to the dock with a lantern swinging from her calloused fingers, she realized this was no ordinary discovery waiting to be made. The knock beneath the dock returned, stronger now, more insistent, as if something below had been waiting for her to notice. Pickle knelt at the edge, lowering her lantern toward the water. The amber glow caught something unnatural beneath the surface, a metallic glint where only mud and roots should exist. Without hesitation, she rolled up her sleeves and plunged her arm into the cool, murky water. Her fingers brushed against something solid, cold, and unmistakably man-made. With muscles hardened from years of wrestling thrashing gators, Pickle strained as she pulled the object from its muddy grave. Water cascaded from its surface as she lifted it onto the dock, a rectangular metal box, roughly the size of a small toolbox, sealed tight and warped from years submerged. The box was covered in thick mud, but as Pickle wiped away the grime, her breath caught in her throat. There, barely visible beneath years of corrosion, was an insignia she'd never seen before, yet somehow felt familiar, as if it belonged to the oldest stories of the bayou. Inside her father's workshop, Pickle placed the mysterious box on the bench, normally reserved for hooks and knives. The metal was cold to the touch, unnaturally so, despite the summer heat that made the shed feel like an oven. When she finally managed to force the rusted latch open, what she found inside made her heart race. Not treasure, not weapons. Something far more unsettling. A set of perfectly preserved laminated notes, and a strange cylindrical device bearing the same insignia as the box. The king of the swamp arrived just as darkness fell, his silhouette unmistakable against the porch light. Troy Landry had seen everything these waters had to offer over his decades of hunting, or so he thought. As Troy examined the contents of the box, his weathered face grew increasingly troubled. His fingers traced the edges of the notes, pausing at a name written in faded ink, Thaddeus Cormier. Thaddeus Cormier was more legend than man, a figure from decades past who had vanished during an expedition into the deepest parts of the swamp. Some said he'd been hunting a monster gator. Others claimed he sought something far more valuable, hidden in the marsh. Troy's family had known him. There were stories most folks dismissed as tall tales, but the evidence now lay before them in this mysterious box that shouldn't exist. The cylindrical device suddenly hummed to life in Troy's hands. A soft blue glow emanated from the strange insignia etched into its surface, growing colder and vibrating with an energy that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the swamp itself. A thin beam of blue light shot from one end, creating a luminous path that stretched across the workshop floor and out toward the dock. Together, they traced the blue light back to the dock, where it focused with laser precision on a specific plank near the center. The wood here was slightly warped, different from the surrounding boards. Whatever they were looking for lay directly beneath their feet. The board came away easily, revealing dark water below. But as Pickle held the device over the opening, the beam intensified, penetrating the murky depths. The water began to tremble, not with current or wind, but as if something massive were shifting beneath the surface. Slowly, deliberately, a metal hatch emerged from the depths, mud streaming from its sides as it rose to the surface like some mechanical leviathan awakening from slumber. It was a perfectly preserved metal hatch bearing the same strange symbols found on the box and device. When Pickle's fingers brushed against the central insignia, the hatch responded with a mechanical click. Cold vapor hissed from the seams as the heavy door swung open, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. Despite caution suggesting they shouldn't venture down alone, both knew they had no choice. The swamp had chosen them for this discovery. It had guided Pickle to the box, awakened the device, and now revealed a passage into the earth itself. The staircase led them into a chamber that defied explanation. Smooth metal walls curved overhead, untouched by rust or decay, despite years submerged in the marsh. Strange symbols lined the surfaces, glowing faintly as they approached. In the center stood a pedestal, and upon it, a translucent stone that pulsed with an inner light. Despite warnings not to touch unknown objects, Pickle felt drawn to the stone, as if it had been waiting specifically for her. When her fingers made contact with the stone, the chamber exploded with light. Projections filled the air around them, not recordings, but memories preserved in technology that shouldn't exist. They showed the swamp as it once was, untouched by modern civilization. Figures moved along ancient shorelines, their features indistinct yet somehow familiar. Then came images of catastrophe, a massive flood consuming the land. The figures worked frantically, burying objects throughout the marsh before the waters claimed everything. The final projection showed a figure standing exactly where Pickle now stood, hands pressed to the same stone, as if completing a circle that had begun centuries ago. She inherited a legacy, one that continues to guide her through the Bayou, with a wisdom that goes beyond tracking gators or setting lines. Because the greatest discoveries aren't the ones that make headlines. They're the ones that forever change how we see the world around us. Even a world as ancient and mysterious as the Louisiana swamp. If this story gripped you as deeply as the mysteries beneath Pickle Wheat's dock, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. The Bayou has many more secrets waiting to be revealed, and we'll be here to uncover them all.